guys. Today for our Down to Business segment, we have Jeff Harry joining us today. Jeff Harry shows individuals and companies how to tap into their true selves to feel their happiest and most fulfilled, all by playing. Jeff has worked with Google, Microsoft, Southwest Airlines, Adobe, the NFL, Amazon, and Facebook, helping their staff to infuse more play into their day to day. This is so interesting because I was in a clubhouse room about play last night, so I can't wait for this conversation.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So you are also an international speaker. You've been at South by Southwest, Inbound, and Australia's Pause Fest. Okay. Want to hear a little bit more about that. And so basically you work in HR just like Annessa and I. So let's start with your early beginnings. Like, what was your childhood like? What kind of steers you into this direction? And why is play so important?
Sure. So my dad's from the Caribbean island of St. Vincent, off the coast of Barbados, and my mom's from the Philippines. And when I saw the movie Big as a kid, I don't know, with Tom Hanks, did y'all ever see that movie?
Yeah.
So as soon as I saw it, he was playing with toys for a living. So I started writing toy companies in third grade, and then I just did not stop for like 15 years until I was in the toy industry. And I don't know if you've ever gotten something that you thought you always wanted, and when you get there, you're so disappointed.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what happened. Like, no play, no fun, no joy. I felt like they were selling like socks, instead of toys. So I left New York, came to the Bay Area, bumped into an organization that was only 7 people at the time teaching kids engineering with Lego, but they were playing for a living. So then I just kind of helped them for like the next 15 years, and we grew it into like the largest Lego inspired like STEM organization in the US. But the whole time we were just making up as we go along. We were just playing. We were just experimenting. We hired people just because we thought they were fun. We picked cities because we just thought they were fun. We had no business plan. But because it grew so large, Facebook, Google, all the tech companies in the Bay started to pay attention to us, asked us if we do team building events. And we were like, yeah, of course. And then I ran team building events for like some of the top companies for the next like 10 years. And what I realized was at the same time that they all spoke about disruption and agile and innovation and all these buzzwords, they had not created psychologically safe spaces for people to actually play and take risks. So I created Rediscover Your Play as a way to navigate really hard conversations, like how to deal with toxicity at work, how to talk about race at work, how to deal with office politics, how to have hard conversations, all that using positive psychology and play.
That's awesome. So, it can be hard trying to create a cohesive team of different people with different backgrounds, when you're at work. So when you were on your journey or during your journey now, what do you find is the most challenging thing about, teams and how to make them work?
I think it starts from the top. It's just like, how much effort are we putting in to have a certain level of shared humanity for our staff? Like, how much do we care about our staff? Like, and not just talking about it, right? Like actually showing it. How many team leaders right now are reaching out to their staff right now and being like, what is the work that you love to do most? Oh, that's your flow work. That's your red thread work. How do I help you do a little bit more of that work? Because it would actually have a ripple effect on all the other work that you do. How many team leaders right now are asking their staff how they're doing? It's been like now 9 months, maybe even longer. How are they, what's their mental health like? Are we actually even having those conversations, or are we being really close to the vest because we don't know what's happening next? So, we're being very careful.
Well, I like one of the things you said about using play to speak with people at our jobs about certain issues like, the Black experience at work or anything else that's going on. And the clubhouse room that I was in talking about it last night, we were talking about, this recent Black trauma of, seeing ourselves murdered in the streets and all the stuff that's going on. And they were talking about incorporating play into our work life, just kind of losing yourself and becoming an inner child again. So can you explain to us why that's so important for, us people of color to kind of tap into that inner childlike soul and how, and also talk about the healing benefits? Because I feel like a lot of people are like, I'm like 34, I'm not going to play. Like, so what does that look like for us, and why should we do it?
Well, first off, I just feel like most POCs already play so much already. Like, we definitely embrace it more than our, come on, just like even when we code switch, that's a form of a weird way of playing, right?
Yeah.
Like my argument when I'm saying this is like, we're already going in with like fake facades to work anyway. So why wouldn't we just play and be like, I'm going to show up as me? Right? If anything, just being able to not have to code switch as much, when I'm working with a lot of businesses, if you think about it, most companies, you never get to practice anything. You're constantly working. So, but it's funny that like the NFL is this weekend and, they practice all week for a 3-hour game. We never get to practice hard conversations at all. So even a workshop I ran with my friend Tashawn, back in like March for the HR Virtual Summit was called How to Not Be Racist by Accident at Work. And the whole point of the workshop was to put a lot of like Caucasian people in the shoes of us and explain to them, like, this is what happens. This is what happens when we get dismissed. This is how we feel. This is what happens when we have to code switch.
I love that.
So I think we already are adapting and playing more, but if there's more important reasons why to play is, Dr. Stuart Brown, the doctor of play, says the opposite of play is not work. The opposite of play is depression. Our ability to adapt and be resilient. Like the reason why 2020 was so tough on a lot of people, in addition to all the loss that we had, right, was that so many people had expectations of what they thought 2020 was going to be, and expectations are the thief of joy. Like that is one of the things that adults do so well, is get so results oriented and so fixated on one result that when it doesn't happen, they're so depressed. They put themselves through such suffering. But the people that were able to thrive more in 2020 were able to let go of that result, to let go of that expectation, to be able to experiment, to be able to fail, to just adapt and just be like, I don't know what's coming next, but I'm just going to roll with it because this has just been my life, and I think a lot of not just Black people, but just people of color in general have had to do that, right? All the time, to the point that when something like this happened last week, we were just like, it pisses me off. It's causing me trauma. And you know what? Not that surprising. Just not that surprising because like we've just had to adapt so much anyway.
So basically play is just not being complacent, but learning how to navigate, and I don't want to say the word comfortable, but just learning how to navigate with the chaos around you.
Yeah, partly that. I define play as any joyful act where you're fully present in the moment, where you forget about time, where there is no purpose, there is no result, where you're like, fully alive. As Howard Thurman, the famous civil rights activist said, like, don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, because what the world needs is for more people to come alive. So when I see someone playing, I see them alive. When I see them nerding out on whatever it is they're passionate about, that's their play. Like I remember I was talking to this phenomenal, Black lawyer, and she was telling me, she was just like, look, I don't play. I don't have time to play. And then I was like, well, what do you do? And she goes, oh, well, I take people that hate each other and I get them to agree on one thing. And I was like, tell me more. And as she was telling me, I was like, she was getting so excited. I was like, that's your play. So it's a broad definition of that, right? I just wrote an article contributed to an article for Mashable from Rebecca Ruiz, and it was all about how do we stop doom scrolling, and spend more time playing. Because when we're doom scrolling, what we're really doing is we're just inundating ourselves with information that is telling us we're not enough, that is telling us that, we should be somebody else. But when you allow yourself to actually get bored and listen to that inner child, that intuition, it's going to whisper something to you that is like magical, right? It's like what Will Smith of like on the opposite side of fear is everything you've always wanted. That's where play exists, where everything that you've always wanted is in that play realm.
It almost sounds like, tapping into your passion, what you love to do.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then taking that and like running with that and just, honing in on that totally.
I love that.
Right. And I feel like Elizabeth Gilbert says this, where some people don't know their passion or purpose, and putting so much pressure that we have to, figure out our passion and purpose or take our hobbies and monetize them. I really like her suggestion of just follow your curiosity, get quiet, get bored, block out the noise for just a little bit. And you can actually then start to hear that voice that's going to whisper something to you that is both scary and exciting. And that is what you should follow, right? That's probably part of the reason why you started this podcast. This is why I make my ridiculous, stupid TikTok videos. It's just we're just following our curiosity because it's something that really piques our interest.
Yeah. And when he's talking about sitting still and letting things come to you, that's meditation. Get into it. Get into it.
And how do you actually, and this could be a dumb question, but how do you get companies to, because when we're talking about this, I'm thinking about Dana and I's team and our company. I don't feel like they would have any interest in us. And, because going back to what you said earlier, and we actually talked about this earlier on last year in our show, just with our mental state, our team leads, our managers, our VPs, they're not reaching out to us and saying, hey, Dana, how are you doing today with seeing so many Black people slain in the streets? How are you coping with that? Yeah, I know you have twins and a 1-year-old at home. How are you coping with that? So how do you guys get companies to find interest in that? Because I feel like that would be awesome for play at our companies, but how do you get them to think that it's a benefit to them and their employees?
Right. Companies revolt when you mention the word play because it's not, there's no ROI value on it, right? But when you talk about flow, when you talk about getting their staff into flow, like maximizing their staff's productivity, that's when they're in their flow. When they're doing the work where they forget about time, that is when they're doing their best work. And I always say this is like Stephen Johnson says this quote, the future is where people are having the most fun. If you look at the organizations or the companies that were doing the best in 2020, the TikToks, the Hulus, the Disney Pluses, people gravitate towards fun. Money gravitates towards fun, right? And if you look at an example of an organization like Google, where they allowed their staff, they do this 20% program where they give their staff a fifth of their time to pursue whatever they want as long as it helps Google out in some way. And what has happened because of that is they've been able to develop Google Meet out of that project. A Gmail came out of that. $1 billion ventures came out of giving their staff the ability to be curious and follow their curiosity and actually play more in the workplace. Now, most companies can't be like, I don't have a fifth of the time that I can give my staff, but you can give them 5% more time. You can figure out ways in which you can help them to do the thing that they love to do more, but then in addition to that, with the organization I run, Rediscover Your Play, a lot of what we do is we help teams navigate hard conversations using play. So we're actually addressing actual pain points, right? Where it's just like, let's help you navigate these really hard conversations. Let's help you deal with this toxicity at work problem that's costing you millions of dollars a year that you've been tiptoeing around. But we're going to use positive psychology and play in order to address this issue. And that's when it speaks to them.
Man, that's wonderful. And I love the idea of it bringing people together because we're going to be working with all different types of people from all different types of backgrounds who see the world differently than we are. And we're working towards one common goal. So why not get along? Why not have these types of programs? Even if there isn't any contention in the office, I could still see where this would be beneficial for all teams to do. Just in case there are some uncomfortable conversations that people want to start and they're not sure how to do that. We get people writing into this show all the time who have been literally living in racist hell for years at their jobs and not, they're the only Black person there and they're scared to say something. So this would be so beneficial. So well, I know you probably can't tell us what types of companies that you work for, but is this something that is becoming somewhat of a norm, especially considering the times, or is this something that you're still trying to fight to get as part of a regular company standard? We have our
I think that I think it's both, right? Like I ran a dealing with toxicity at work. Oh, by the way, the name of the workshop I actually run, it's called Dealing with A-Holes at Work Through Play. Like that's the name of the workshop. That's the workshop that my friend Gary Ware and I actually went to Australia to do, right? I recently ran that with the Department of Homeland Security. Not that entire department's open to this, but a certain wing of it was, So I think it's not even sometimes about the company. It's about each team, and each team leader. Is each team leader willing to now start to have these conversations? Other ones don't. They'd rather just keep it super awkward. I don't know how that helps, but like even in this virtual environment where we don't have to deal with as many office politics, there's still a lot of hard conversations we're not talking about. How many, people that are listening to this could not talk about what happened this week with their coworkers. And they just had to tamper it down and be like, let's get back to work, which is crazy right now, which is just unbelievable that we would even attempt to do that. Right. And then the amount of like text and Facebook messages and things that you were emailing other people to being like, I can't work. I just can't work right now. Like I mentally can't work. Right. So I think we have to address that. But I think something even more important that I've been talking about for a while now is like, we have to also rethink how we're doing work, especially like COVID. If one thing this has given us is an opportunity to rethink was normal working for anyone, right? Who was normal working for? Because based off of all the studies, 85% of people are disengaged at work, meaning they're doing mediocre work at best, most of the time, right? And also being that it's an 8-hour workday, studies have found now that people can only focus for 3 hours and 51 minutes of the day. So and then our workday is extended to 8.8 hours. So what in the world are we doing for 5.5 hours? We're doing wasteful meetings. We're doing work. How many reports do we make that communicate the work that we're doing? Like we're making up work just to make up work, to show that we're busy.
Job, I swear.
That sure is.
And it's just like, what are we doing? Like,
seriously.
what are we doing? Like, why are we wasting all this time? Like Keynes, this economist, said back in, the 30s, by the time we reach the 1970s, we will only be working 15 hours a week. What he did not know, though, was that capitalism and consumerism would cause us to believe that we had to work more, So like, there's so many things that are wrong with how we're even doing work. And we're at work 2,500 hours a year. Our whole year is only around 8,100 hours. So why in the world would we not be focused on creating a psychologically safe space for people to actually feel joyful, fulfilled, be seen, and actually be able to play at work?
Yeah. I love this. I think this is a fabulous idea. I feel like every company should have this. I used to work at a company that we didn't have play, but they had playrooms. It's not the same thing. So this is. Oh, it is?
No, it isn't.
I was
No,
gonna
it
say,
isn't.
yeah,
Because
no.
what's interesting is like you can have ping pong tables and slides, and again, all those posters on the wall. But if you don't do or allow people to actually be themselves, like the way in which Tony Hsieh did at Zappos, where he would literally pay people $3,000 to leave. It was just like after like a month or something. If you don't feel like this is the right place, I'll give you $3,000 so you should leave, so you could leave. And then all the nerds or the weird people that like really resonated with him would stay, so like we have to actually back up what we claim, like, we want people to show up as their authentic self. Really? What does that look like? Do you really want to see?
You don't want that.
Do you really want to see all of me? Because then let's show it through action, because I am a little, because I think a lot of people that are listening to this are like, I'm a little tentative about actually showing who I truly am at work, because of perhaps the repercussions of that, right? So I think leaders have to look back and be like, what am I actually doing on a daily basis to create a psychologically safe work environment?
Definitely. Jeff, this is super awesome. As Dana said, I feel like all companies need to implement this, especially right now. This is a really, really good time to implement this with everything that's going on. We all need a little play in our lives. So if any of us want to, like, if there are any, companies listening or anybody that might be managers or leads at their own current companies, where can we find you to get involved with this with this play?
And do we have to go through our companies? Could we go through you personally?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so you can go to rediscoveryourplay.com, and actually when you arrive, there's a Let's Play button where, and you click that, and there's a bunch of different like experiments that people can actually do either at their job to create more engagement and connect more with their staff. And I'll leave you with this. I think this is one of the really powerful play exercises that I tell people to do, either with their colleagues if they feel comfortable enough, or simply with their friends. And one of my favorite ones is you reach out to 3 to 5 of your closest friends and you ask them these 2 questions. What value do I bring to your life? And when have you seen me most alive? What value do I bring to your life is about like, how are we connected? Why are we friends? What do I do for you? Because I think a lot of times we forget. And then the other part is like, when have you seen me most alive means like, when have you seen me most present, most engaged, most like myself, right? And when you get the answers back from those 2 powerful questions, not only do you receive all this love and appreciation, but you also see that people really do see you, and you're reminded, oh, those are the ways in which I play. Oh, that's so interesting. Can I actually do that at work? And you reach back out to your friends and be like, can you help me to figure this out? Either to play more at work or simply to play more outside of work so that I have the mental capacity to actually deal with work. So again, what value do I bring to your life? And when have you seen me most alive? Ask those questions from your friends and see what magic you're going to actually hear from them.
I like that. Well,
I do too.
We've been getting people asking us to do a show about us.
That might be it.
We're going to bring play to the show so you guys can get to know us a little bit better. But again, thank you so much, Jeff, for coming on and giving us some knowledge about play. I'm so glad I found myself in that room last night because I was like, okay, I get to learn more about this tomorrow. This sounds awesome. Every company out there should be doing that. And you have like other stuff on your site, not just this game or exercise, but there's others, right? So people can get to know each other.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of it. Yeah, a lot of them around employee engagement, a lot of them around like how are we having hard conversations, all that.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well, everybody go out and follow Jeff. Of course, we're going to post on our social media, and there'll be in the show notes where you can find him, how you can do play. Thank you so much again for being on our show.
Yes, thanks, Jeff.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, guys. Well, so we really, really, really hope you enjoyed the show today. We are changing our show's format. So The next show you hear will not sound like this. It's still going to be Black at Work. We're still going to have our segments to mimic a work day, but the flow of the show is going to be so different, and it's all because of you guys. We accidentally put a poll out and asked y'all what y'all's favorite. Well, it wasn't a poll. That's why we had to take it down, but it was like a questionnaire, but it was supposed to have been a poll asking y'all what y'all's favorite segments of the show were. And we heard you loud and clear. And now we're evolving because you guys have evolved. So first of all, we want to thank Jeff for coming into the show today, dropping some gems and being, one of our few last guests. And we want to thank you guys for being our ever so faithful coworkers. The show is going to look different, but I promise to God, you guys will love it. What do you got to say, Annessa?
Yes, y'all are really going to love the show. We really are trying to take you guys, this is your show at the end of the day.
Pretty
it's
much
our show, but it's your show. You know what I mean? So this is where you guys also come to the stairwell to scream as well as us. So we want to make sure that we are, giving you guys what you want. Give the people what they want at the end of the day. So I'm excited. Dana's excited, and Happy New Year to y'all. And I hope y'all are really holding on to y'all seat in this roller coaster ride that we about to go on in 2021, because it's about to be lit.
Hold on to the master zone.
Lord have mercy.
Oh my gosh. We will be back next week. Send us your fuck yous. Send them in. Call your friend. Tell us to them in. Tell your friend to write up something in the text message and send it over to us. Do whatever the fuck. Send your fuck yous. That's what we want from y'all.
And be this Friday, our first Clubhouse happy hour. This Friday at 6:00. Be there. Follow us on Clubhouse.
Be there or be a triangle.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.